adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. A very warm good morning and a hearty welcome to one and all. I wish you all God's blessing and compliments of the season of Lent. We have been traveling from Ash Wednesday till today with Jesus. The Lenten season invites us to meditate on the three important virtues of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Today we are in the 5th week of Lent. This week invites us to look at Jesus in a more closely and to travel with him and to meditate upon his suffering and death and how he has redeemed the world through the cross. In the season of Lent, we have traveled with Jesus in the way of the cross, fasting, praying, and almsgiving. And so it is good to rewind ourselves and see from where we have traveled and where we have reached. In the first week of Lent, we have been with Jesus in the desert, where Jesus fasted and prayed to his Father, and so we have seen Jesus' humanity, where his close relationship with his Father is revealed. Here, Jesus overcomes temptation, and so he remains close to his Father, and his prayerful life and his temptation, everything expresses his humanity. In the second week of Lent, we have been with Jesus on the mountain. On the Mount Tabor, Jesus transfigured himself, where he revealed his divinity to all of us. He transfigured in front of his closest disciples, namely James, John, and Peter. And in the third week of Lent, we have seen Jesus cursing the fig tree which does not produce any fruit. Here, Jesus asks all of us to bear fruit and be witnesses to his call. And in the following week of Lent, we have a beautiful story of the prodigal son. We can call it a prodigal father or prodigal son or merciful father. This story explains to us the greatest love of the Father to all of us. And finally, in the 5th week of Lent, we are with Jesus in the temple, where a woman caught in adultery is brought to Jesus, and Jesus does not condemn her, rather he makes her to realize her own mistake, and Jesus gives us a best example of how we need not to condemn others. In the next week, that is 10th of April, we will be celebrating the Palm Sunday of the Lord's Passion. This week will be known as the Holy Week, where we have Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And finally, we will have the Last Supper of Jesus on Thursday, and Good Friday, where we will be meditating upon Jesus' suffering, carrying the cross, and we will also walk with Jesus on the way of the cross. And finally, we have a long-awaited celebration of Easter, where Jesus overcomes death and redeems all of us, and he becomes a victorious king who has overcome death and resurrected into heaven. Having seen the full season of Lent, let us reflect on today's readings. The first reading is taken from the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verses 4 to 9, where we see the people of Israel complained against Moses and the Lord. Why have you brought us here, where there is no food and drink? You have brought us here to kill us. And so the people become impatient. They grumble against the Lord and Moses. Here, the Lord sends poisonous snakes, the serpent, to bite the people. And so people realize their mistake, and they go to Moses and ask for help, and Moses goes to the Lord and prays. And so the Lord instructed Moses to create a bronze serpent where whoever looks at this bronze serpent on the pole will live forever. We can call this passage as, very beautifully someone puts it, look and be alive. God calls us to look at Him and be alive. Gospel reading is taken from the Gospel of John chapter 8 verses 21 to 30. Here, Jesus again says that when you see the Son of Man being lifted up, then you will know that I am the Lord and you will live forever. Both the readings of the day is speaking about Son of Man being lifted up. In the first reading, we find the bronze serpent which is put on a pole symbolizes how the Son of Man in the Gospel will lift it up and whoever looks at Him will live. Now let us reflect and see the significance of the cross in the Christian history. The Romans used cross for punishment and death. Jesus died on a cross. For Christians, the cross is a symbol of salvation. It is by Christ's death on the cross that God is justified in forgiving sinners, which He does for every sinner who acknowledges their need for salvation. When we reflect on the cross of Jesus, let us also recall to our mind what Jesus asks of us. In the Gospel of Matthew chapter 16 verses 24, we find Jesus telling His disciple, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." And in the Gospel of Luke chapter 9 verses 23, we see Jesus telling, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their daily crosses and follow me." In the Gospel of Mark chapter 8 verses 34, we find Jesus telling, He called the crowd to Him and along with His disciples, He told them, "If anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Like this, we can find various references where Jesus invites all of us to carry our own crosses and follow Him. Here, we need to ask this question and see, what does the cross of Jesus implies to me in my life? What are those crosses which the Lord invites us to carry and follow Him? And also ask ourselves, what are those crosses which I find difficult to carry? Let us, as we are in the season of Lent, let us continue to follow the Lord in the way of the cross, carrying our own crosses, asking the Lord to help us in those moments where we are not able to carry our own crosses. As the reading invites us today to look at the Lord and live, let us look at the Lord, let us live with the Lord, following the Lord in the way of the cross. In the coming few days of Lent, let us continue to journey with the Lord, carrying our own crosses and asking the Lord to guide us and help us to carry our own crosses.